Today is Tuesday, April 6th. Decky Mullet, how are we?
We're great, Andy Greengrass. I'm just excited to be here, man. And we got a hell of a podcast guest today, Patrick Hardie, the host of the Top 5 podcast. He works at Media Bridge, but more importantly, and what we start the podcast with, is he was one of our first kings on the Kings and Queens date night podcast that Andrew and I have been running for the past couple weeks here. So we talk all about that. It's phenomenal. Just get good behind the scenes and chat and talk and a little goss. Well, that was short for gossip for who don't know. Talk a little goss. It gets crazy.
It gets crazy. We now understand that there are a lot of things going on outside of the actual show behind the date night podcast. There's some chaos. There's some controversy. We are stirring the pot here in Minneapolis romantically, and it cracks me up. Patrick gets into it. Go follow him at chef_Boyardee, and enjoy this conversation. Today, let's welcome King Patrick Hardie, who was on the Date Night podcast.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing? Welcome to the Backpocket podcast.
I'm doing splendid, and I am very thrilled to be here at this moment. I was going to say, you guys should set up a Where Are They Now with all Date Night podcast people and just see what's happening with all of them. Did they go on a second date? Well, we'll see.
Well, I guess we got to start right there, man. So you were on the Date Night podcast. So we've been recording this Date Night podcast, the Kings and Queens model for now 4 or 5 weeks. And you are our, I believe, third rendition. And we lined you up with 3 lovely ladies, and you had an opportunity to pick one of these ladies out and ask her out on a second date. It went swimmingly. The content was awesome. You crushed. The night was awesome. How was your experience, man? And did you go on that second date?
So here's the deal. I want to start off by saying the experience was, okay, tip of the top, cream of the crop, okay? That's where we stop. It was phenomenal. The people there were so gracious. It was so much fun. It was super smooth, just silky smooth, unbelievably. I am happy with the pick that I made. However, so after the show ended, her and I stayed later. And I was like, let's actually talk, not record it. Let's catch up, get to know ya. And we were chatting about what we would like to do for a second date. And we were mapping stuff out and kind of brainstorming what we could do. And she gave me her number, and I did the whole basics of, you got to follow them on LinkedIn, on MySpace. That's how flirting is these days. You got to hit them up on everything. And then the next day I was like, hey, how's this date? And I got a very non-committal yeah, I guess that's fine. I was like, fuck, that's great for my confidence. And then the day came, and then she was like, oh shit, did you mean today? I thought you meant another day. I can't do today. And me being me, I was like it was a game show. You don't have to actually go on a second. If you don't want to, you can just tell me. And she was like, yeah, I didn't actually want to in the first place. I went on because it was fun, and I don't have time. I was like, you don't have time? You don't have time? I was like, okay, that just chaps my khakis a little bit, and yeah. So
I think you need to pull a hard pivot here and just hit up the first lady. What was her name again? I think listening back, that was my favorite of the 3, to be honest. And
one with the flower dress, not jacket,
yes,
but dress.
And she brought you a piece of cake.
I know.
I think you just go ahead and DM her, dude, and be like, I made a wrong mistake. And I think because she liked you, dude. That was the thing. She liked you. Of all the girls who were obviously blatantly talking to you and going on this date, she liked you.
Okay, so I'm going to shoot myself in the foot right now, and I do not give a shit. You know how she gave me a piece of cake for being a cake eater?
Right.
I promptly gave that piece of cake to the girl who won. I was like, I don't want this. You can have it. And I gave her the piece of cake as a good job for being here. So I didn't even eat the cake, so I feel like an asshole for that. I mean, yeah, it was. I feel like it's gonna look bad if I'm backtracking. It was like, hey, I made a mistake. Can I
own it? You gotta own it, dude. It's
You're
all that's what this podcast is all about. This is why we're having you on. It's all about teaching you ownership, Patrick.
I will say the funniest part of the entire show was the people who slid into my DMs before the show even started. So when you guys posted on the page I was going to be the king, I had like these women sliding in with the most aggressive pickup lines. Just like, yo, baby girl, let me take you out. Let me treat you right. Let me take your ass out. And I was like, holy shit. I was so scared. I was so scared.
Well, this is why we need to have you on and why this is exciting, because this is news to us, right?
Yeah, we didn't know that.
We've been doing it. This was last night was our 4th time doing the Kings and Queens model, and we don't know what the hype's like for these contestants. We have no idea that when we post something, there's people that aren't even going to be on the show messaging, reaching out. This thing is turning into something that we didn't think. Like it's evolving into things that we didn't foresee, and I love every second of it. This is too cool. I'm stoked that you came on, because Patrick, you actually did an incredible job. We have not had a great success with dudes on the Date Night podcast. A lot of duds, a lot of people that look at their feet, look at the ground, use the host too much, or just like grade A douchebags and like that are just like not, just friendly. So overall, Patrick, like we're trying to find more of yous out there, because the content that you brought, you knew it was a show. So you were just like, you were performing, and then you were also having a great time. I commend you big time with that.
I mean, thank you. I mean, there's a couple things to attribute to that. I just fucking love talking to people. It makes me so fucking happy. B, wait, can I swear on this show? I should have prepped that.
Yeah, you go for it, dude. Swear all you want.
Secondly, the way that I function best when I'm with people is if I feel like I'm in a comfortable environment. That's the only way that I can ever achieve anything remotely good. And when I came into that show just to be with you guys, oh my goodness, y'all wrapped me in a fucking fluffy ass blanket and just cuddled my ass in there. It was so warm and it was so welcoming. And you guys were very, very supportive and really energetic about like what you wanted to do. It was clear you had a vision for the show, what you wanted to happen. And it wasn't, I didn't feel like just throw them out there and let them swim. I had floaties on. I had some floaties on, and it felt great. So you guys definitely made it really easy to operate smoothly within that show. You guys picked a bunch of great people to be on the show. That was, I mean, half the battle right there is picking good contestants who aren't just dry as hell and just won't talk back to you.
Right.
Now, actually, I had one question which I want to know about. We had a last minute back out before the show happened, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I want to find that girl.
Yeah, dude, she's this awesome little woman from the U of M. I'm like hesitating because like I don't want to like throw her name out there, but I will. It'll be more of an off-air thing, but like I hate to say it, but like she would have been awesome. Like she's a African American young lady. She was the coolest lady. Like our first one that gave us the yes, because I book all the contestants. And she was in right away, like recommended by a couple people, hit her up right away, and she was like, I'm in. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like our first like African American woman, like haven't had one of those on yet. I was just like so excited about it. And then she got sick like 2 days before, and I was like, oh. Actually no, she was sick. You're right. That she was the day of. I was like, oh, I can't. And everyone was speculating, like, oh, did she get like cold feet and just say she was sick and back out, or is she actually
Everyone's
sick?
thinking it.
Everyone's thinking it, but like I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. Like she definitely wanted to be there. I gotta imagine. I'm gonna hit her up again to see if she wants to do it. And that's how we'll really know how sick she really was the first time. Either way, yeah, that's who it was.
And then we scrambled and we found you another lovely lady, but there was a little chaos in there. We were in the DMs, we were working through some things, and she mentioned, she asked just a simple question: how tall is our King Patrick? And then I of course have never met you, so I have to go and back into the DMs, go to Patrick and say, hey man, this question isn't coming directly from me. This is coming from the ether. We need to know how tall you are. and there was some resistance right away. You were hesitant to just give that information away.
Here's the deal. I would like to also note for the listeners that you described me as a meat castle. I don't want to skip over that, okay? It was a castle of meat you used to describe my body type, but
that was me. I apologize.
that was you. Fuck. Okay, so when it came to the height thing, this is my thought process, okay? And I have walked this out through my brain a couple times to rationalize it. You are allowed in every sense to have physical, emotional, and mental attributes that you are attracted to. That is how we all operate. Some people are attracted to tall people. Some people are attracted to short people. Big, small, skin color, eye color, hair color, religion, do not care. Some people are attracted to certain things, and that's just how we are wired. However, I would not negate the chance to meet someone just because they didn't have a physical attribute I was attracted to or like wasn't attracted to. Like it's the negate process of like, oh, he's not tall. I don't want to come on the show then or even get to meet him. Because there are some like super, and this is me sticking up for my short kings, okay? I got to do it. I'm 6'4", but these dudes, you got to stick up for them. Here's the deal. There are some short guys who are like the most beautiful humans on earth, like the greatest people. And then it's just a discredit because they're not above 5'9". Like it's just a throwaway. And I was like at least get to know me if I was short. Like give me the decency of looking me in the eyes and then saying no. Don't.
Totally. And I think, some short people that come to mind that are like good looking, Wee Man, Manny Pacquiao, Tom Cruise, Muggsy Bogues,
absolutely.
tons of people out there that are short and also good looking. But I also got to defend her a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we need her. Okay? Yes. Like she is our last lifeline. Otherwise, we're going in with two contestants, and it's like at that point it's a 50-50 shot as to which one works, right? Like this doesn't flow with the feng shui of the show. Yeah. So like we're in a desperate scenario here. She's also being notified 3 hours before this thing is happening, and wants to just get an idea of what she's up against here. Absolutely. It wasn't like she's being proposed on silver platters like good-looking guys every single day, and she's like, too tall,
can't.
Too short,
sorry, what's
blah,
his
blah,
centimeters? Just get me.
I think she was just genuinely wondering because she was also like a little tall. Like I think she had some height on her as well. Not gonna call her a meat castle, but she was a little tall. So like, I mean, she probably doesn't want to date a short guy. Part of your attraction complex. So what say ye, Patrick?
And here's the deal. In both of our defenses, we did give her the height, and we did succumb to the request because, like, no one's actually fucking offended that someone asked for their height. Like, no one's actually pissed off about it. It was just something that stuck in the back of my head that was like, but, like, it wasn't a deal breaker for anybody. I mean, then when she brought the piece of cake and was like, "You're from Edina," I was like, "Oh my God, this is an old fucking joke." But that other than that, like, I think it all worked out really, really well. I mean, every single person that was on there was like just a dynamite pick. I don't know how you guys select them out, but incredible job.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Man. Yeah, appreciate the love. That's the Date Night podcast. We'll continue to pump those out Friday night at First Draft, powered by the Backpocket podcast, Kings and Queens. But let's dive in.
Friday nights now?
Oh, Wednesday nights. Sorry. Did I say Friday?
Wednesday nights. Yeah, but I also want to touch on one more thing. Just like, can you give us an example of what these DMs were, dude? I want to hear like a good example of who was coming at you, dude.
I wasn't kidding when I said someone DM me, "Yo, baby, let me take your ass out." Like that was a straight up DM. Let me treat you right. Those were 2 DMs I got from women.
Sick.
Just like the most, and now I was like, wow, is this what it feels like to be a girl when dudes just like try to slide into your DMs and just try to like do like the dominant tactic of like, "Yo, let me treat you right." Got a couple of those. They're scary. they're scary. They're intimidating.
What do you think about wetting the beak on that? Maybe we go back to the well on those. I think there's something to be said about that.
I was very much impressed by the audacity of these people just to be like, you know what? I know you're going on a dating show to find someone, but I'm gonna slide in there real quick before you go on. And I had one girl DM me because I didn't respond to her when she DM'd me like hey, let me take your ass out. I didn't respond, and the dating show happened, and she just responded the most sad like ... Guess it's too late now. And then just unfollowed me. I was like, oh my Jesus. Yeah. So you meet some people out there. But we'll see what happens.
We truly are running the Bachelor of Minneapolis here. This is getting out of control.
I mean, but there were a couple people betwixt the thrice of us. There were a couple people who did follow me because of the show, and I did slide into their DMs. And after I knew that the primary date that we had, the second date, was not going to happen, after I knew that wasn't going to happen, then I may have slid in a DM or two of someone who had followed me because of the show. And,
nice. All right.
And gone on a couple dates, so it was good. We all in all, we found love in like a weird zigzag route that eventually got to the center, but we made it there.
Right. The path to love is not an elevator. You got to take the stairs. I've always said that.
Roller coaster. It is bad.
Always. No, that's badass, dude, and I love that. And I think the funniest part about it, I think Andrew mentioned earlier, is like the buzz that's generated and the things that happen around the Date Night podcast, I think is far more hysterical and fun than sometimes even the aspects of the show itself. Like, for example, we just had this one last night, and even with yours, the Instagram story analytics of like how many times like people will hit the Instagram story, and then like if it's you or any of the girls that were contestants, or like even last night with the guys, like we have like over 500 people tapping on the person's profile to see who they are. And like it's the post itself, like the IG story itself, is only reaching like 500 anyway. So we're batting like 99%, and it's absolutely insane. This one kid had 32 shares on his one single.
Wow.
It was insane. Like from an analytics standpoint, like, and I know it's.
Oh no, this is what I love. Talking about analytics. Let's do it.
It just like blows my mind, because like Andrew and I have always, we see these types of analytics from girls, right? Have a girl on the show, post her on our Instagram story, and it's the chicks get clicks mantra that always happens.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh, of course, everyone wants to know who this really good looking girl is. Well, like I didn't realize like it's a two-way street. Like when it's guys too, like people are like legitimately interested. So
yeah, I'm
fascinated from afar. And I'm sure you know this, but like I live in Arizona, working this podcast and booking all these guests from an RV, and then Andrew's running the show in real time. So wild stuff, man.
Just want to drop in that I'm running this from an RV. Just that nice little drop in. It's a nice RV from what I'm looking at. You got a beautiful setup. I'm digging it.
It's fun. I want to get some sort of backdrop going on, like back here somewhere.
Yeah.
I could work on that, but for the most part, man, I am podcasting very comfy.
Jeez, I did have speaking of last night's show, I did have a friend of mine. She was a girl who was at the moment like seeing two of the guys who were on the show as contestants. Like she had matched with them both on Hinge. Or it was Tinder. It was one of the dating apps, and she matched with both of them, and she was like seeing both of them, and they didn't tell her that they were going to be on the show, and they don't know each other, but they didn't tell her that she was going to be on the show until the day of, and she was distraught last night. It's two people you think that are there for you, and just boom, just no.
That is insane.
I know.
See, like, so awesome. Like genuinely, like Deck and I have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. We were like, oh, it'd be really cool to do a blind date, and that was our original structure of the Date Night podcast, where we just grabbed two people that were interested in doing the show, and then we sat them down for an hour-long conversation with T-Flow as the host. Well, we did that 3 or 4 times over, and none of them really worked. There wasn't a ton of chemistry. It's hard to have an hour-long conversation with behind the white lights on the microphone. It gets a little, you're just nervous, and it's hard to do an hour's worth of content. So then we're like, condense and speed rounds. And this show has now popped off. The buzz is incredible, but then the actual controversy and the random like one-off connections where people are getting irritated, it is mind-boggling. And I'm just sitting back here like, all right, we're doing it again next week because this is great for content. Absolutely.
I mean, you have to. Yeah, it's crazy how everyone in Minnesota tends to know everyone in Minnesota somehow. I don't understand how this link is humanly possible. But you will always know somebody on that show. It's incredibly crazy how that happens.
Right. No, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And but I guess one more thing I would like to know, or Andrew and I would both like to know, is like, is there any sort of, just from your experience, is there any sort of feedback or improvements that you'd like to see, or if you were in our position, you'd implement?
So here's the deal. And there's no way to actually change this. I don't know a better solution to this. And I think the reason why the show actually pops off and works so well is because of how kind of awkward and tense this is. It's part of the show, needs to happen. God damn, that lineup at the end is so painful. It's so fucking painful. Just to sit there and you're like, oh, I had such a nice time with all of you. But I got a big one here. And and they're all just sitting there just so politely and they're so kind, but they're all like lined up shoulder to shoulder. And they're just like, fuck this. Fuck, God damn it. God damn it. This is what I signed up for. This election process is brutal, but there's no other way to do it. Like, I couldn't think of a different way. Like, and you have a crowd there and you're not going to like, you have to. There's no other way to do it, but it's brutal to see happen. But that's why people watch, because they like the end pick. It's the draw. Oh, I don't know how The Bachelor actually does it, like on the show with like, oh my God, it's terrible.
Right, it's heart-throbbing. And I remember walking up to you right beforehand, and Declan gave me this pointer from the last Queen that we had on. Dramatic pause, and I was like, Patrick, I know you got the theater background. I know it's in your blood. So it's your time to shine. Build the hype, pause, and then deliver. And that you did, Patrick. And that you did.
But like the only thing going through my head when I was picking was not like, did I make the right decision? It wasn't like, remember the pause. It wasn't what words I'm going to say. I just had their 3 names going over my head over and over and over and over and over and over again, because I did not want to point at Jess and be like, Kira, fuck, nope, that one. What's your, okay, and then just leave. I couldn't. Their names were so important to me because I am awful with names. I don't know what it is. They do not stick in my brain unless I like manually write them down and then I rhyme them or I like create an association with them. I will not remember your name. Like, I don't know what it is. So I was so proud of myself for remembering 3 names. That was it.
Snaps for
Patrick. Hey, dude.
Thank you.
Not easy. And then another question I had, just for future kings in your position, or maybe even for the females, contestant and king, like, and the kings in the situation. What would you like recommend, or a helpful tip for maybe a king, and then maybe a helpful tip for a contestant?
Let's see. Tips for kings. A, don't drink. That's my thought process. As a contestant, yes, because you have the liberty to be loose and kind of go with the flow, and you don't have to lead it. But as the king or queen, I adamantly had a beer with me for psychological reasons, just so they could see that I was drinking with them. But I did not touch that beer the entire time until maybe like the end, because I did not want to slip up for a second. I knew that I had to be the person that kind of modeled like what the control needed to be, where the conversation was going to go. I didn't want to look like an ass. And by like, I didn't want to do like a beer each date. So by the third date, the last one gets the short end of the stick. And I'm like, fuck it. How you doing? What's going on? What's happening? You look great. You want to get out of here? Like, I didn't want that shit to happen. So I had to like crisp it up. That's my tip. Come prepped with your own questions. Don't like, I met with the host ahead of time. Her name was Sydney, right? Was it Sid?
Yes.
Yeah, Sid.
Look at me remembering names. And I was like, here's the deal. These are the questions that I have prepped that I can ask myself. You can have them if you want, or if not, it's up to you. But like, I always want to have your own questions prepped. Make sure you like know things that you're actually interested in learning. Don't do the whole like, how was your day? What do you do for work? How's your mother? The checklist of basic, what's your favorite color? Like come up with questions that you actually want to know the answers to. As a contestant, I would say go into it knowing that it's like, oh, that sounds so cliche. If I'm like, go into it having fun, that's bullshit. Because like, what else kind of advice are you supposed to give? Go into it scared. I would say, as a contestant, it's not your job to bring the joy and the positivity and bring the let me show who I am, let me be here, let me impress you with all I have in this second. Like, this isn't an audition. I mean, it's a dating show, but it's not an audition where you recite a monologue and then you give your best tips here and there, and then you say, oh shit, she memorized her lines the best, that's the one. I mean, I would go into it viewing it as like an actual conversation. Like, the cameras are on you and it's kind of tense and you want to put on your best foot forward, but it's not an audition for love. You're just there to talk to someone. Like, when I come onto this show, I'm not seeing this as, oh fuck, this is a great time for me to plug my shit. Like, this is a good time for me to plug what I like, what I do, who I am, follow my ass on Instagram, and then dip. Because that's just the what of who I am. It's not the why of who I am. So if you're going onto the show, I would come prepped with a why of just like, why do I want to be here? Like, what's your actual reason for chatting with me today? And just have it's like when you're in a relationship and they tell you a relationship isn't you loving someone, it's you loving each other. Like, it's not like I'm here to just love you. Like, that's not what a relationship is. That's very one-sided. It's I'm gifted to love you and you're gifted to love me, and it's a two-way street. I would just approach a conversation like that with, God, that got way too deep. I meant it to. But yeah, just have a conversation. Don't audition. That's it.
Yeah, man, be yourself, dude. And that was actually the level you need to go. That's the content we want. So Well said, Patrick. It's not what you do, it's why you do it. And I want to dive into you now. Like, we circled the wagon on the Date Night podcast. Now it's time to hear the Patrick Hardie story. I know you work at Media Bridge right now, and we were kind of talking off air how you obtained this job, but let's go back a little bit farther, man.
Sure.
You told me a little bit when we met for the first time that you have a theater background, and that was kind of your initial push, your career passion. Let's start there. What was that like, pursuing a life in entertainment?
Absolutely. I at the age of 15, there we go, Patrick. At the age of 15, I made a promise to myself to start working my ass off to raise money, to move to Los Angeles, and then to watch a movie a day for the rest of my life, to study like the craft, like to watch movies, to understand them, to understand how to write them, edit them, direct them, act in them. Because if you're a jazz musician, you listen to jazz music. If you're a painter, you look at paintings. And if you want to act or do stuff in film, you watch movies. So I promised myself I would watch a movie a day for the rest of my life and then raise up money to move out to LA. I accomplished both of those. I still watch a movie a day. I haven't missed one since. If I happen to miss a day because I'm on like vacation or something, I'll watch 2 in advance, or I'll watch 2 afterward to make up for the day that I missed. I will never miss a day. Because it's like, it's my form of meditation and like learning from shit, and helps me connect with who I am and my emotions and what excites me, which has always been film. And then for money, I just saved up enough to be able to drive out there on my own just pack up my car, drive out there. I mean, have enough to sustain me before I could get a job, and then just eventually live and survive out there. So after college, I packed up my car and I drove out there. Didn't have a job, found a roommate last minute who I didn't know, moved in with her. Bad idea, but that's a different story. Just didn't connect, just not good. But as you do with most roommates, you don't know. But moved in there. And then once I got there and started sustaining myself, I just lost all money. I mean, I was sleeping on the floor for about 6 months because I couldn't afford a bed. I was just penny pinching here and there. Eventually, a month in of just scrounging for work, I found a job at like an LSAT MCAT test prep company where I was their marketing manager, and I would drive 8 miles to work, which was 2 hours in LA. So it was a 2-hour drive in the morning and about 2-hour drive in the nighttime. So when they tell you about people in LA that they live in their car, their job, and their apartment, that's all you have time for. The only other thing I had time for was just drinking, and that's all I did. When I got home, I would just drink everything I had in sight because I didn't want to like accept where I was, because I was so depressed because I moved out to LA very egotistically, as I would say it, because I thought I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody. I'm going to leave this small Midwestern area. I'm going to make a name for myself. When really, like, I don't think I even really gave a shit about acting. It was more just like I wanted people to see that I moved to LA. And I got there and I was like, wow, shit, you really need a drive to survive in LA. Like, you need this driving course. And I got there and I was like, when I get there, I'm going to figure out what I want. And I got there and I was like, holy shit, I need something to move me. And I had nothing. I had no reason to get up in the morning. I had no reason to go to work. I had no reason to eat or to move or to anything. I had no people out there that I knew. I had my brother out there, but he lived so far away that I saw him maybe like once every other month. I barely got to connect with him that much. So it was the little bit of family I had. But after 6 months, I only made it 6 months. I had to break my lease, spend about $5,000 breaking it just because I couldn't last a single second in LA any longer. Packed up my car and spent about a week, 2 and a half just driving back across the states, taking my time. Didn't have like a map. I just wanted to take a week and a half to find me and kind of reevaluate. Because when you spend your entire life building this kind of dream that you have for yourself, moving to LA and doing something, and then within 6 months that just ends, you're kind of like, what has any of this been for? Like, what is the purpose of anything I'm doing at all? So I got back in Minnesota after like a week and a half drive, moved back in with my parents. And it was like, okay, I got to start over. Like, I just need to start completely fresh. I need to reestablish connections, yada, 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 build my life back together. And maybe I'll use my major, which is advertising. Maybe I'll actually use the thing that I studied, because why the hell not? So I started applying for jobs here and there and tried to find people that I could connect with and fuel me and give me some kind of drive, because all I wanted was a reason to do anything. And like, there's nothing scarier than a man or woman who has no reason at all. No reason to get up, no reason to move, no reason to love, no reason to have a relationship or sustain them, just blank slate. So it's like, fuck, I gotta find my reason. That's like all I need to do. So after probably another 6 months of searching for work that actually got me excited, there was an agency called MediaBridge Advertising that I was very much interested in. I found out that they would be at this like weird ad fed gathering event that was for like agency people only. Like, it was just a celebration of like what they've done all year. So it was a bunch of people just glad handing and getting connected. And I went to this meeting thinking it was like a networking opportunity, and I was the only unemployed person there. Like an asshole. I stumbled in there and I was like, hey, where's like the other unemployed people? And everyone else had like a job. And I was like, holy shit, I need to talk to someone, or just if I leave this place without a job, I'm the worst. I'm never gonna get a job. I'm giving up. It's not gonna happen. So I knew the VP of the VP of marketing of MediaBridge, which was Tony, and I saw her at the party, and I came up to her and I said, "Hey, my name is Patrick. I just moved back from LA. I need a job. I know who you guys are. Just like give me 30 minutes and let me just tell you what I can do and what I want to do. And just like give me something." And she gave me her card. We set up a second meeting. I got an internship for about 2 months unpaid. A month into that internship, it was March 2020 and COVID happens a month in. So now this is an unpaid internship. I'm an unpaid intern a month into COVID. And I'm like, well, they're going to shit can me in a second because I'm an unpaid intern. Why would they keep me around if everyone is just hemorrhaging money here and there because everything's shutting down? Everything's canceling. We're panicking. And I was like, fuck, this is just the worst timing. I'm going to have to stay with my parents the rest of my life. I'm not going anywhere. And then the final day of the internship came and I had a Zoom call with my boss. And I was like, well, I'm going to get fired in a second. And she didn't show up to the call. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. She can't even show up to fire me. She's like, you can't even fucking show up just to fire my ass. Jesus. And then I turn around and there's a bunch of cars in my driveway and they've all got champagne and paperwork and stuff like that. And I'm like, you want the job? And I burst into tears. Just burst. And of course my parents are like, who are these people on our driveway? Yeah, and I accepted the job, and I've been there ever since for about a year and a half now, year and 3 months, I should say. And God, if it doesn't give me a reason to get up in the morning. So there you go. You found it.
Damn, that's a story.
That's awesome.
Oof.
That is awesome. What I want to start with is like with your short stint in LA.
Yeah.
Through the experience, call it a failure, but I will just call it a learning moment.
Absolutely.
What did you learn? What was your biggest takeaway, or maybe a few takeaways, learning points that that still stick with you today?
Biggest takeaway is that I'm happiest now because I was unhappy earlier. That doesn't make a lot of sense when I say it, but I'm very happy now because I went through shit that made me realize what happiness could be. Like you go out to LA thinking you could do shit on your own, and I was very individualistic. Like I like living alone now. I love just being on my own, but at the point of LA, it was a distancing from every person in my life. I want to cut everyone off and be completely alone. And through that made me realize how much I need people to be who I am. Like I'm the half the man I am if I'm not surrounded by people who at least give me the other half. Like I'm dead in the water. Absolutely. Secondly, I mean, yeah, that scary shit that you've always wanted to do, just do it. I know that sounds so cliche, but like, I kind of hope it fails for you. Like, I kind of hope you do it and it actually kind of fucks up and it doesn't go the way you planned. Because that's the quickest way you're going to learn anything about life is if you put this weight on something, it doesn't go as planned and you realize what actually matters most to you rather than this like individualistic goal. If you place all of your happiness on this one external objective, then, I mean, what happens when you get that? You're just happy. There was someone who told me, like, if you're not happy on the flight to Hawaii, you're not going to be happy in Hawaii. Like, you need to be content at every stage of the process, no matter if it's the accomplishment or it's the failure. You're in your own existence, you're in your own being, and you're going to love that. So there were moments in LA where I would be like, I remember being mad at the time difference because I thought that LA was 2 hours longer on my life because it's 2 hours earlier. And I was like, Minnesota is like 8 p.m. at this point, and it's 6 p.m. here. That's 2 hours fucking longer. I got to live in this shit. And I would be so mad just at the time zones. That's how fucking depressed I was. And on the weekends, I hated knowing that I was in LA because like on like the weekdays I could go to work, distract myself, drive, come home, go to bed, and that was it. On the weekends, I would just have to sit with this like feeling of like, okay, well, I'm just here. I can't leave. I'm stuck here. I'm depressed. So I would get up at like 6 a.m. I'd walk out to the road, and LA is covered by these long roads like Burbank Boulevard that just run for miles across the state. Like they just go for miles and miles and they cover the entirety of Los Angeles and bits of California. And I would get up in the morning, like 6 a.m., and I would stand on this road and I would just start walking one direction. And I would go like 6 to 8 to 10 miles. And then like fucking Forrest Gump, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm done. And I just walk back. And then when I got back to my apartment, I would then just go the opposite direction. And I would just walk for 6 to 8 to 10 miles. And then I would stop and then I'd turn back. And that was my Saturday. And then Sunday, I'd do the exact same thing because when I was doing it, I thought it was a chance to escape from my emotions of accepting that I was there. But upon reflection of being here now, I realized it was a chance to actually like confront my emotions of why I was upset. Because on these walks, I would scream, I would sob, I would be happy, I would just talk to myself and I would figure everything out. And I thought I was escaping from my emotions when really it was the only chance I had to confront them because the rest of the week I was hiding from them. So I would confront them. And that's something that has stuck with me still to this day. Of course, I don't have time to walk fucking 10 miles now, but like, I'll just write everything down now. I'll face my emotions rather than like, I'll write everything down. If I'm feeling upset about something, I'll write it down instantly. I'll ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Rather than hiding from my emotions, because that's what solves everything. Wow, that was a long ass answer. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. Do you think like the deepness of like what you were feeling during those 6 months and relatively quickly and impactfully was because you were dreaming of being in this situation for all of college, all of your childhood, and then you were in it, and then it was like, this isn't it.
Absolutely.
And that's why it was just cutting deep and you couldn't even accept like, you're here now. What can I do with it? It was more so like, this is not it at all. And it just kind of, it was overwhelmingly just depressing.
Oh yeah. And I'm blaming Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling for that one because La La Land just happened to come out like the year before I moved to LA. And I was like, God, LA is going to be like La La Land. And I'm going to meet Emma Stone. I'm going to get into a movie and I'm going to be in love. I'm going to dance in the streets. And then you get there and it's fucking depressing.
Right.
Like it's LA is wonderful and it's beautiful, but it's damn hard to survive there. And I definitely let my own expectations of what I want it to be fuck up the entire trip. I think if I'd waited maybe a little bit longer in my life, then I may have done a better job of it, had established myself, my emotional maturity, gone with people. It would have been better and if I had leveled my expectations. But naturally, when you graduate college, you think the world is your oyster instantly.
Yeah, man.
Right. Well, and I think another thing too, just to add to that, it's like, what an awesome opportunity you had, and like honestly, you're so much better off for it. And who's to say you can't go back in your 20s later down the road and do it a better way with better intentions and like not as much crazy expectations with these lofty goals. You know, like there's just something to be said about like throwing the dart at the dartboard and not really worrying about whether you're hitting a bullseye, but just being like really excited about throwing the dart and getting the reps in of just continuing to throw the dart. And I think that's really what you said in your response was just like, you know, I hope you fail. I hope you figure it out. I hope you find the answer. Yeah. But you're never going to find the answer unless you don't throw that dart. And I think that's amazing, man. So I really commend you for that. But on top of that, I did find out that that you actually gave MediaBridge, like all the different people in the company, a signed headshot of you for Christmas.
Yeah, I did. Yep. I had a bunch of.
For context.
Yep. Oh my Jesus.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
We know people at we know people at MediaBridge. I had to do the math for you.
You know Nate Reinhardt? Is that who this fucker is? Jesus.
Of course, dude.
God damn.
Of course.
Yeah, I had a collection of really shitty headshots left over from LA, and I wanted to get rid of them. So as Christmas cards, I signed them and sent them out to like all my loved ones and all my coworkers, just so I could put them up on their fridges, just so they could have my face always there with them. It was great.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
Backpocket is deeply rooted in MediaBridge advertising. We credit a lot of our success to Giselle Ugardi. We had Alex Rollins on the podcast and then played at our event,
Love
Coachella. And then
Love
Nate
him.
Reinhardt, we've been close with him. He had Metro Mugs. He started that up for a little bit, and now he's just doing great things. He's just like the nicest, most positive, most caring person that we know. Nate, if you're
That-
listening to this right now, I love you, man, and I just appreciate everything you did for me and continue to do for me.
That man just like happens to have good things happen to him, but like in the most deserving way. Like I've never met someone when you're like watching a movie and you're like, fuck, that guy's such a good guy. I wish some good shit would happen to him. And then they just like win the lottery. Like Nate had that Mr. Beast shout out that just got him like 140K subs. And then, I mean, like with his wedding working out in COVID and with everything going on, I mean, he's just a killer. So the thing about Nate, which I know we shouldn't be talking about people who the listeners don't know because that's out of context and it's confusing, but Nate was a rapper. He has a single on Spotify that is called Donut Time. And it actually slaps. Like it's so good. It's impeccable.
That is hilarious.
He performed it all himself.
And did Alex
When did he come up with
tune it up for him? Did he auto tune? Does Nate have a voice? Can he sing?
He was a bit filtered, but I mean he sounds great. He sounds phenomenal.
God,
You said it's on Spotify?
It's on SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.
Wait, this is my question for you guys though, and this is in terms of podcast building. When you guys first started Backpocket, and of course with all the other podcasts that you fund yourself and help promote through your chain of your production company, how do you set individual expectations for the content that you create? So when you start a show, like, are you thinking this is just for a small group of people that I want to hear it, maybe it'll grow, or are you thinking fucking to the moon is where I want to take this shit?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's kind of two-pronged. Like, you kind of have to play the game of, like, can this go to the moon? But, like, how do I test if it goes to the moon? And you got to test it right in your backyard, right? You got to, like, actually play the game with your friends or show them what you're thinking to see if you got the response. So I think that's definitely a part of it. I think, and also there's a lot of like mulling over and like bouncing the idea. So like I'm a person, when I come up with an idea, I tell every goddamn person and I let them give me feedback, just physically watch their response, and kind of just talk through it. And that's kind of how it kind of forms itself. Yeah. But I never really have any expectations. I never want to set that out. I always just want to kind of have it come from a place of like, is this like firing me up because I keep thinking about it and I think it could work? Would you say that's a good way to describe it, or how would you go about it, Andrew?
Yeah, the expectation, I mean, we've been at it for 4 years now and released over 300 of these. The expectation is for this particular conversation right now is how can I have the most fun, and also how is Patrick going to see this experience and how is he going to feel after he is finished talking with us after an hour and a half? That's literally the only thing I'm thinking about. And hopefully that just relays into the listeners. I genuinely have no qualms with how many people will listen to it. I hope the world listens to it because I do think there's value in here of having like one-off conversations, knucklehead conversations, and then having depth behind it. It's incredible. Yeah. We're truly learning about you today, Patrick, and you're like sharing with us some incredible information. One, we had a mutual shared experience with date night, and now we get to hear your story, and there's intertwined things. Like you mentioned, Minneapolis knows everyone. But I just love podcasting because it's a conversation that you don't get to have every day. And we've now scheduled it every Thursday for ourselves, once a week.
That's like a good question I have then is what is how do you deal with creative burnout? Because at this point, you're on your 300th episode, I believe. Like within the 300s. I mean, this isn't the 300th, but you're within the 300s. And the podcast that I've been doing, like I started in college, and it was called Top 5, and it was a obscure top 5 ranking show. It was just essentially a show for my buddies and I just to have bullshit conversations we would have drunk but recorded. So like, give me top 5 movies that would be made better by the Muppets. If it was remade by the Muppets, give me top 5 movies like that. Give me top 5 low-key turn-ons. Things that are specific to you that just irk you but aren't broad. Give me like the top 5 worst songs to make out to. Like really obscure shit that everyone tends to have like an easy go-to answer for. Like top 5 irrational fears, which mine are sharks in pools. Fun fact. But I got such creative burnout from that. Like I would come up with a new top 5 every single week, and I would find a guest, and after maybe like 2 seasons of it, I was like, fuck this, like this is going nowhere. Like I feel more burdened to put it on than I have joy from publishing it. And it got a good reception from people, which was always fulfilling. But I was like, fuck, if I don't stop this soon, it's gonna go into the ground. It's not going to go anywhere. So then I made the transition from this obscure ranking to doing like a morning radio show where we kept the top 5 name, but it was top 5 songs to just start your day. Cause I wanted to just have, like, I remember listening to old radio shows, of course, like Premium Companion or whatever you had on the radio as you drove to school. But when I got older, I would start listening to like, what was the name of there was on YouTube, there were these collections. It was KHJ Los Angeles, and they would pull these live recordings of these 60s like morning show of like the real Don Steele. And it was just him like on the air doing his morning show, and that was it. I used to listen to that as I like did homework, just radio shows. And I was just kind of like, fuck, I kind of want to do like a radio show just where I can just play bops and just help people get up in the morning. And that's what top 5 then turned into. And it became a lot less stressful for me because I could just do it alone. I think it was the scheduling part that like really stressed me out. In addition to like the promotional part, I'm so shitty at promoting what I do. Like I'm really good at doing what I love and loving what I do. I'm so good at that. Like if there's something I want to do, I will do it. I will love it. And that's it. But I'm so bad at sharing what I love doing. I'm fucking awful at it. I hate posting. I hate making videos. Like I hate like even this. I want to share this conversation. Like right now we're taking an Instagram, we're taking a photo, but I'm like, fuck, that's going to take me away from the actual conversation. I don't want that. Like I feel like when I incorporate social media, it like takes me out of the joy I have of doing something. I don't know how to make social media enjoyable for me. I have no idea how to do it.
Right. No, and I think to pick out that a little bit, there's this cool little analogy that I got from a good friend Miles Biggs, and he talked about this idea of like the point A when you do like the creative process of like coming up with the idea and then executing it, from like taking it from point A, the idea, to point B, the execution of it. But then like what's your point C? So like your point C is like kind of the reevaluation tool of like how A to B went. And then and how I always look at it is your point C is kind of your evaluation tool for what the next point A is going to be. So to put it simply, it's just the pivot. So like how Andrew and I have gone for 300 plus episodes now is we've just kind of tried to workshop and problem solve as to what garners the most happiness, so that when we show up to do this podcast, we don't get paid for it and it takes 4 hours. Like we don't feel like it's a chore.
Yeah.
And the second it starts feeling like a chore, then Andrew and I have a conversation about it. Like, and we're like, hey man, did you also feel like you didn't want to show up today to record? Yeah, I didn't really want to do that either. Okay, well, no. What do you want to show up to record? Okay, yeah, I want to do call-ins, or hey, you want to just like get back to recording with guests? Like, well, what do you think? And that was like kind of our last pivot, was like January time, just kind of understanding like, okay, we're kind of sick of talking to each other about nothing essentially. So like, let's see if we can do something different. But that's been going on for 4 years, man. I mean, that's just something that it has a lot of accountability between us built into that. But ultimately, like, we understand that it's a process, man. We love, Andrew said already, like, we love podcasting, just strictly. It doesn't matter if it's your top 5 podcast, which I listened to and I thought was super creative. But I love the industry in itself. So it's like, I just want to find our way through it. Now, compounding that, like there's this idea of like doing what you love, loving what you do, but like also there should be some aspect of like sharing what you love should garner some happiness and reinforcement to loving what you do. Granted, it is a bitch to chop things out, or it could be distracting to post online and all that stuff, but I truly believe there's a time and place for it. And I think you just kind of have to find yourself in the right creative spirit, and maybe even just be creative about how you tell people about it. Because what's really your intention? To get it out to the masses and have 1 billion downloads for your podcast? Or like, are you just trying to have like, is there an audience specifically that would listen, that would text you the second you released a good episode, and they would let you know that episode rocked ass? Like, that's a single person, like you could maybe find those types of people. So there's always a different type of creativity. But I mean, Andrew, I'd like to have you chime in here. Just like, where's your head at in terms of the creative process, and how you've podcasted for 300 plus episodes?
Yeah, how I think I keep my cup full, and that's an awesome question, Patrick. Like, the creative burnout is real, and that thing happens every week, every day. And Declan and I just try our best to just be open and communicate where we're at and what we love doing. But I think what fills me up the most is having the opportunity to interact with this community that we've built outside of the studio, and like challenge myself to go do something with someone that they love doing that I've never done. And that, I mean, we're simply a conversational podcast. So we get to hear someone's story, and then Patrick, like, maybe we go grab a beer, maybe we go do something with Nate and like do something fun. Like I'm going to have to like hang out with you at some time, because that's just going to have that urge for it.
Can we do that? Oh my
yes.
God, yeah.
So that's how I fill up my cup. We do stuff like Embrace the North, where we're jumping in ice water, and I meet a couple people that are doing ice water things. I'm like, oh, I'll hang out with you and jump in the water with you. Being in this city, like you just mentioned, everyone knows each other, but also everyone's at the end of the day trying to help you if you have the right intention behind it. It's a very giving community, but you have to like be willing to also give inside of that. You can't just take, or people are going to shun you. And like, if you not gonna slash them, but Chris Lindahl, my guy, we gave you a platform, and we talked to him on the air, and he told us he'd love to get us on a billboard. Never did. And I hope you're listening to this right now, because I know you're tied with Media Bridge, but Chris, I need you to follow through with that commitment.
We need it bad now.
We want that billboard.
Post-pandemic. I don't think we needed a billboard. Like, it would have timed up to like launch during the pandemic, and like, quite frankly, that would have stunk ass if we had a billboard during that time. But like, hey, Chris, happy to revisit.
Love to get that conversation started.
All right.
Again.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And thanks for looping back around, Andrew. I think like definitely in the show notes, like, let's get Chris Lindahl back in the conversation.
Because I love that guy.
The podcast. So yeah, I love that.
I mean, I'm trying to find, I knew the second I got back to Minnesota that I knew there was one thing that could fill my cup, and I've been struggling to accomplish that. And that's been being more active within my Minneapolis community, which is something that I was never good at growing up, mainly because I was from Edina. And when you're in Edina, you never leave Edina. You're just kind of there, stuck in this bubble. You don't really branch out that much to the actual heart of Minneapolis. And then when I left Edina, it was right to Milwaukee, and then left Milwaukee right to LA. And when I got back to LA to Minnesota, COVID hit. So everything kind of shut down. So I am actively trying to find more ways to connect with this city that I love so dearly. I just have no fucking idea where to start. Like, it's again, it's simple things of just going out to more restaurants and going out to more like locally owned stuff, but like doing more fundraising and community work. And like, for the longest time, I wanted to help out at like Secondhand Hounds, because I mean, I'm obsessed with them, but because of COVID, they're not accepting volunteers. Or for other industries you want to help out with, they're just not having anyone join because of COVID restrictions. So I'm trying to find new ways to engage with Minneapolis, like at some point, because I'm dying to, and also it's workload too. I need to have a work-life balance, because Media Bridge, like, I mean, we joke about how we don't work 9 to 5s. We work every single day of the week. We do. Like, the second we're done with this episode, I'm going to go back to work. Like, I'm just going to plug right back in. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do it this weekend. I'm going to do it early in the next morning. That's just what it is. but I need to find like a work-life balance to connect with Minnesota because I'm dying for it. Dying for it.
And I think all of us are to some degree with, restrictions over the last year. Because I remember in 2019, like just buzzing around the city, going to things called Lincoln Drink with that our buddy hosted every other month, and just doing like one-off events that I would just see like pop up on Facebook and be like, oh, that looks sick. I'm gonna go to that. Food trucks happening like that. I want the city, that atmosphere, and that's why I'm here. I want that interaction again. And when the time is right, obviously, I'm not going to force that upon anyone, but that's a craving I think we all have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree to that too. But I think there's like I still go back to that aspect of like the pivot and how like I feel like we're always trying to find some sort of fulfillment, and that's kind of what I think, and you were getting at this, Patrick, of like just kind of trying to find the things that you want to get involved in, like whether it's with secondhand hounds or all these different things. It's like be stoked about the fact that you're even like trying, right? Remember, you were walking down streets for 10 miles at a time, like not looking for that before. So like you're now in a place where you're aware enough to know it's worth immersing yourself into a community in a city that you love so dearly. So like stay patient with it, man. Like even being on the podcast with us today is a form of that immersion into the community. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find something very soon here that's going to sprout, and you're going to be ready for it, right? Like there's going to be that one moment where like the door or the window of opportunity is going to open and you're going to jump right through it, no problem. And it's kind of these down times, or these times where you're really grinding and asking yourself those questions over and over again. Like these are kind of, you're getting those reps in, that unseen work. It's going to happen for you soon, man. I'm confident in that.
We're waiting on it. We can do it. I can wait.
Hey, and one may even say that opportunity was the Date Night podcast, and things are already flourishing for you.
One could fucking say that was the entry point I needed.
Yes. Oh, that's too funny, man.
I look at this nice little bow tie we're putting on this. We're making a circle here. I had a wonderful time with the Date Night podcast. So yes. If y'all haven't checked it out yet, go check that shit out as soon as humanly possible.
Amen to that.
Not everything.
At @the_DNP.
Yes, sir.
Simply put.
Go fill out that form in that bio @the_DNP. But kind of transitioning here to the back end of our show, we got some core questions that we'd love to ask you, man. We've talked about your journey thus far, and there's been ups and downs, ebbs and flows, trials and errors throughout it all. And I'd like to ask you, Patrick, what's an average quality of yours that you're working on every day that you care about and you're trying to get a little bit better at?
You know what? I'm gonna go back to this. I need to get better at sharing what I love doing. I'm not good at it. It really just brings me down to a level when like I can't tell people what's happening in my life, whether it's via social media or just like telling people my own accomplishments. I'm not good at sharing what I love doing. That's something that is an average quality of mine that I have the tools to get better at. I just need to dedicate the time to do so. And that doesn't mean like striving for a certain follower count or putting on this false image of myself or portraying something that I'm not. Just simply sharing like, I did this today, I accomplished this, I'm here now, this is going well for me. Because while in the back of my head, I'm like, no one gives a shit, everyone gives a shit about everyone at some point. I care about my friends and what they're doing, so why wouldn't they feel the same way about me? Why do I think that no one gives a shit about what I have to post on social media? So I need to get better at sharing what I love doing. That's an average quality I have.
Amen.
I love that. And I would urge you to just kind of just start whenever you find that you want to do this, like where you feel an urge, is just kind of document and just use it kind of as your like, I hate to use the word mood board, but use it as like your place of refuge, I guess, and like use it as a space where like you can go back and click through your Instagram stories, or it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but you can scroll through your tweets or maybe a few emails you sent out, or maybe a podcast or two that you recorded, and you would just like genuinely go back and listen to that and be like, oh dude, like I love this and I want to send this to someone. Like that's where I find where I'm like, and Andrew knows this is like an average quality of mine, but I would even say a downfall at times. It gets maybe a little annoying if you're friends with me, but like if I create a piece of content that I really like, it's in your inbox, man. Like I'm sending it to you. I'm like, dude, check this out. Like this shit rocks.
Nice.
And that's just something pertaining to me specifically. But if you can find something like that and get creative again, like I was mentioning earlier with like, how can you share that with someone? Or if you just like, you do something and you feel like, okay, man, I kind of want to tell someone about this, like go do it, like take the action. And again, it doesn't necessarily even need to be social media associated, but just like letting someone know, like, dude, hey, check this thing out. Or check out this song selection I made on my top 5 podcasts. Like, does this get you fired up? So again, I think you're outside of all the different like critiques or suggestions like we're giving you, like you're on the right track, man. You're going to find it and you're going to text both of us, I'm sure, one of these days and be like, dude, I found it, boys. This is fun as shit.
Boys, we got it.
We got him.
He's good.
We got it. But another question I had for you, Patrick, was like, when you're in LA and you're in those tough situations where you're like getting pissed at the fucking time zone, which is so funny because like I'm sitting here in the time zone in Arizona, which is the same West Coast, and I'm like, hell yeah, dude, it's only 6, like I'm stoked. But it's just funny how like that there's always another side to the coin, right?
Yeah.
But when the pressure's high, you're feeling anxious, you maybe have a little bit of depression vibes in you, like what's in your back pocket to kind of come out on top? Like what are you utilizing within yourself to like help you win the situation or make the most of what you got in front of you?
Wow, this is like when you're watching a movie and they say the title of the movie in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Ding.
Is there a word like or a phrase or something for
A
that?
technical term? I don't.
Maybe,
Yeah, technical term.
maybe
Is there
not.
from the movie buff?
I don't think so. I wish there was a term for that.
It's usually just look at the person you're watching with, and, like hit him on the shoulder, like, yo, they said it. That's the term.
And he experienced the Shawshank Redemption. Holy fuck. He fucking said it.
He fucking said
It
And he
was
was
a Toy Story. God.
oh, for fuck's sake. And they were a bunch of angry birds. Angry Birds the movie, baby. What a phenomenal story.
Good
there.
Lord. What's in my back pocket that soothes me? I write every single emotion down that I spend too much time thinking about. So there's a wonderful book which is on every single white mom's bookshelf that is called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. It's an incredible book, but she has this thing called The Work, which is essentially where if you go through, and this usually comes up for me at least in like relationships I have. It's good for encountering problems with people in your life that you can't rationally think through, you're perturbed about. But she has this thing called The Work where the second someone in your mind that wrongs you, you write it down instantly. So you say, there was a scenario I had where I went on a trip to visit a girl, and the day before I got there, she had told me that she was seeing someone, and I had gone there to spend quality romantic time with her. And I did this whole trip when I got there, and she's like, "Hey, I'm dating someone now." And then he promptly stayed the night when I was at that place. I was crashing at her place, and he stayed the night, and I heard them fucking all night. Like I'm in the next room, and I had gone to see this woman and like have a romantic encounter with her, and I end up making this trip and listening to her having sex in the next room. So naturally, you think to yourself, holy fuck, I'm going to explode with like rage and anger. I'm so pissed off right now. And I was sitting there being like, do I just leave? Do I pack up all my shit? Do I go home? Do I break down the door and like just like throw a fucking fit? And I'm fuming. I'm fucking fuming. And I'm like walking back and forth. And I'm like, I got to just write this down right now. Like I got to write down everything. And it goes to like You write down what happened. Like base level terms. You write down literally what is happening. This girl who I like is having sex with another guy in the other room. That's what's happening. How does it make you feel? Makes me feel mad, kind of sad, kind of like disrespected, a little bit like humiliated, kind of. You like down to the base level. And I was like, why are you feeling that way? Well, because I feel like she doesn't respect me. I feel like she doesn't care for me. I feel like she doesn't do this. She doesn't do that. And after you write down all of these things about why you think she's doing this, why you think she's accomplishing that, you then ask yourself, is that true? Like the first question is that true? I feel like she doesn't respect me. Is that true? I say, fuck yeah, that's true. Look what she's doing. Second question is, are you sure that's true? Did she tell you to your face, I'm doing this to disrespect you? No. No, I just kind of inferred that because of her actions. Oh, so you inferred that. So she didn't actually tell you she's disrespecting you or she's humiliating you. You just think that's what she's doing right now because you put this thing in your head. And you're like, oh, shit. Yeah, okay. And then the question is, so you have this thought of her disrespecting you and her humiliating you. How do you feel when you don't have that thought? Like how would you feel if you didn't think that was true? Well, shit, I'd feel pretty damn good, wouldn't I? If I just didn't have that thought. And then just drop the thought. I mean, that's your thought that you made. It's not true. You can't prove it's true. You just put it in your head, so you drop it. And I was sitting in that room listening to this girl having sex with another guy, and I was like, wow, good for her. At the end of the night, I was fucking applauding. I was like, you fucking go. You do your shit. I can't control you. I can't control what you do. I can control how I can react to this shit. So I wrote all this down. I went through this process, and I got done, and I slept like a fucking baby right in the other room. And I woke up the next day, I made them fucking breakfast. I got up. I made these two fuckers breakfast. So I was like, you know what? I feel so good because, like, I'm fine where I am. Like, nothing bad has happened to me, really. She's just doing something else that, like, I set an expectation in my head, and this weird like dream expectation didn't come true. So I'm mad about that. I mean, I'll just live in my reality of what is, which is it didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but I can make my own joy from within. So I write everything down. That's how I comfort myself.
Bro, that is awesome. I mean, the work through there that you reiterated and wrote down and then share with us. I mean, first off, you're a storyteller because that's fucking awesome. Second off, like, just kudos to you because these thoughts that we make up for ourselves, these just fascinations or whatever theoretical situation we put in our head, they're so irrelevant, but they carry so much weight and feeling and emotion that they don't need that. And when you can have the opportunity to be mindful and write this stuff down and get to the root of it and then remove the actual bullshit around it, that is not an easy task. But when you can do it, there's a lot of good that comes out of it. Deck, what's the 90-10 that you always say?
90% intention, 10% mechanism.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
That's totally it.
And it's
totally
great
it.
to like read your little fit of rage like the next day and just be like, that was so stupid. That was so fucking dumb. I'm writing with one hand, just like furiously scribbling. And you read the next day, you're like, what'd you get out of that? What do you feel better? Do you feel better for this fit you threw? No. It's like when you like get super like no one drinks the night before and the next day they're like, God damn, I'm so glad I got drunk last night. Like that, like no one actually thinks that. You enjoy it in the moment, but the next day you're like, oh fuck, that was rough. Same with like the fits you throw the night before. Like in the moment you're like, I have to lash out now. I have to show this person that I'm in control, that like I'm angry and they need to validate my emotions. Well, the next day you're like, oh fuck, I made an ass of myself. Holy shit. There you go.
Mm-hmm. No, that's totally the truth, man. And we don't really, I would say oftentimes people don't really realize that like that hindsight 2020 vision on it. And it's just cool to hear you have this level of self-awareness around situations, especially this one that just are like shitty. Like I wouldn't want to be in that at all. Like and it's hard to and that's a great example for like when your back's kind of up against the wall and minimize and kind of just like telling yourself it's okay, doing a sweet work through, and just always kind of just reinforcing the idea of like there's two sides to the coin. There's a way you can turn this into a positive, you turn and burn it into a great breakfast the next day, and I'm sure you had a great trip. But like that, none of it's easy though. Like none of it is like I'm sure you were sweating. You know, like it's a serious mental exercise that you got to go through, and I think. I just hope someone listens to this and like decides to take that challenge. And speaking of challenges, I would like to know kind of what we do a lot of challenges in the back pocket, and more so on how we grow kind of our networking communities. So like who would you challenge us to have on the show? This can be kind of anybody to your liking or benefit. Anyone in your network, anyone that you know, anyone you think that would be good on the show. Who do you got for us, Patrick?
Chris Lindahl.
Get him back on the show.
Yeah. I want him back on.
We had him to kick off 2020.
Okay, so then I would actually I would get Nate on this podcast. I honest to God, Nate's my top pick. Fucking Nalter Deeds out there. He is like he's got a story, if anything. I love that man with all my heart. He is my Mr. Miyagi to a T. Like that, he's just a smart, good man. So definitely get Nate Reinhardt on this podcast.
Yes,
challenge accepted. I think we got to get pretty much everybody in Media Bridge on before we get Tracy on. I think that almost makes like a ton of sense. To just like, and we've even asked Tracy to come on the podcast, and she's like more than happy to do it. And God bless her, she's an absolute force and just an awesome person.
She's the one who furnished my apartment. I like didn't have any furniture when I moved into Golden Valley, and she gave me this big ass sectional and like the bed that I sleep on. Like the mattress and everything. She furnished the hell out of my place because I just didn't have anything. So she is an incredible woman, just through and through.
Yes. Yeah. She's awesome, man. And wait, did Andrew tell you that he worked at Media Bridge?
Oh yeah.
Do you guys know you guys were?
We had
okay.
Story,
I was gonna say. Because that's a hell of a story too. But either way, man, I appreciate the challenge. Nate is a long overdue guest on the show, so yeah, we're definitely gonna have him on for sure. Nice. Thank you for the challenge.
Yes, challenge accepted. And Patrick, tonight has been awesome, dude. We appreciate all the time that you've given us. We got one final question for you. A simple question. What did you learn today from the moment that you woke up to when we're having this conversation?
Well, for starters, thank you for having me on, of course, naturally. What did I learn today in its entirety? Holy shit. I mean, there's so much that we just picked up through this podcast. And this wasn't actually something that was like spoken aloud during this podcast, but something that clicked into my head is that I told you guys my gripe with the final steps of the creative process of posting it, like to actually getting it out there, posting content to promote the content that I make and how bad I am at it. Now, I'm a person who lives off of his calendar. Like everything in my life is scheduled to a T. I'm a type A motherfucker. I get up at 6, I eat at this time, I shower at this time, I have my meetings at this time, I work at this time. Everything is tracked out, like to a second. And the one thing that is not tracked out in my life is my creative time. For some reason, it's the one thing that I put in when I happen to have leftover free time. And I think from today's podcast, I've learned that I need to schedule and prioritize my own creative aspects of my life, my own creative endeavors. I need to set aside time and make sacrifices from other time in my day. It's going to have to happen. I'm going to have to cut out sections of there and actually dedicate, even if I'm not in the mood for it. I do not give a shit. It's got to be done. So today I learned to factor in creative time into my day. There we go.
I love it, Patrick.
I love that.
Nice.
I love that, man. I would just add on to that, like, instead of looking at how you have been looking at it, where you're like, oh, I guess I can be creative now, like, and you kind of force it into your brain all of a sudden because like you think's like it's gonna be a good thing at the time. Like when you schedule creative time, like you could you could think about that in advance. Like you could see it come up on your calendar and be like, oh fuck yeah, dude, 6:30 p.m. Central Time is my creative time, and I can't. And you might even be thinking about it the day before, 2 days prior, whatever it is. Like you align that time, you're gonna give a lot more thought towards it, and you're gonna see something sprout from it, and it's gonna be a lot more productive for you. So I'm excited to have you back on the show at some point later down the road and hear about all the things you've created. I'm excited just for that simple aspect because of how great of a person you are. And it was an absolute pleasure having you on the Backpocket today.
It was great. We had a great time. This was
phenomenal.
A romp and a half. I'm satisfied. Absolutely.
What a great meal.
I'm stuffed.
I'm just so full. Good work.
Oh God.
All right, boys. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap. Love you.